A simple act of kindness turned into a nightmare for one mother and her family. She thought she was doing the right thing by opening her home to a friend in need. Arnold Perry had nowhere else to go, and she believed he just needed some help to get back on his feet. She wanted to teach her daughters the importance of compassion and trust. But instead, this choice would lead her family into something no one could have expected. At first, everything seemed fine. Arnold quickly settled into their home, even helping out and becoming part of their daily life. The mother was happy she could offer him a safe place and felt good about setting an example of generosity for her kids. But as the days passed, small changes started to show. Moments that seemed innocent at first turned out to be signs of something darker. In a quiet neighborhood in Ohio, word began to spread about what had happened in that mother's home. Neighbors who had always seen her as a kind, hardworking woman were shocked. It was the kind of place where people looked out for each other, where news, especially bad news, traveled fast. The betrayal felt personal to everyone who heard about it because, in a community like theirs, trust was everything. People struggled to make sense of it. They knew her as a mother who was always there for others, who offered help whenever she could. For someone to take advantage of her kindness in such a terrible way felt like an attack on their entire community. Families began questioning how something so tragic could happen so close to home, leaving everyone with a deep sense of unease. The mother had always put her family first, working tirelessly to create a safe and loving environment for her three daughters. As a single mother, she balanced long hours at work with raising her girls, making sure they felt secure and cared for. Her home was meant to be a place where her children could thrive without worry. Her daughters were her world. She spent every day working to give them a stable life, hoping they'd grow up feeling loved and protected. In her eyes, her act of opening the door to Arnold was another step toward showing her girls the values she held dear: kindness, empathy, and the importance of helping others in need. She wanted to show them that people deserved second chances, that everyone needed a little support sometimes. Little did she know that this well-meaning decision would ultimately test every belief she held. At first, Arnold's presence felt like a positive addition to their household. He blended in easily, sharing meals with the family, lending a hand where he could, and becoming a familiar face in their daily routines. The mother saw him as someone grateful for the support, someone who respected her family's space and appreciated the fresh start she'd offered. But over time, subtle changes in Arnold's behavior began to surface. He started spending more time with the girls, finding excuses to be around them alone, and paying them a bit more attention than seemed necessary. These moments were small, easy to overlook, and seemed harmless on the surface. To the mother, it just appeared he was trying to bond with the family. Her trust in him was so firm that any unease she might have felt was quickly set aside. Little did she know that these seemingly minor actions would be the first signs of a betrayal that would soon shake their lives. The mother's work hours meant she was often away from home, trusting that Arnold's presence would add a layer of security for her daughters. She believed her friend would look after them, allowing her to focus on her job without worry. Her trust in him ran deep. He was, after all, someone she had chosen to help in his time of need. But that trust gave Arnold the opportunity he needed. While the mother was working, he began to isolate the girls, finding moments when they were alone and vulnerable. What should have been quiet, routine afternoons at home turned into something far darker. Arnold used the very trust he had been given to create situations where he could harm the girls, all while hiding his actions behind the bond he had built with their mother. Unseen and unchecked, the harm grew, leaving scars that no one noticed until it was too late. As time passed, whispers and rumors began to surface, hinting that something was terribly wrong. The mother couldn't ignore the growing tension, and eventually one of her daughters found the strength to speak up, revealing the painful truth. In that moment, the mother's entire world fell apart. She was hit with the harsh reality that the friend she had trusted, the man she had welcomed into her home, had betrayed her in the worst way imaginable. The shock was overwhelming. She had invited this person into their lives, believing he would bring support and stability, only to discover that he had taken advantage of her kindness to harm her daughters. Grief and guilt flooded over her as she tried to process how this could have happened under her own roof. Friends and neighbors, hearing about what had happened, were heartbroken. Many had known the family for years and felt a mix of sorrow and disbelief. Some friends admitted they'd felt uneasy about Arnold living with the family, especially with young girls in the house. They had even voiced gentle concerns to the mother, suggesting she consider the risks. But she had reassured them, confident that her friend meant no harm. Now those quiet warnings echoed in her mind. What had once seemed like a well-intentioned choice to help a friend had led to an unimaginable outcome. The weight of those overlooked cautions added to her grief, leaving her haunted by what she now recognized as missed signs. For everyone who knew the family, the pain was real, and the trust they had once placed in this man was now shattered. When the case finally went to court, it felt as if the entire community held its breath. Friends, family, and neighbors gathered, each person carrying the weight of what had happened. The courtroom was filled with a heavy silence as Judge Maureen Sweeney addressed the seriousness of the crime. She spoke directly about the harm done to the young girls, the trust that had been destroyed, and the innocence that could never be restored. With each word, she highlighted the pain and betrayal the family had suffered. Her message was clear. Arnold Perry's actions would not go unpunished. This was more than a sentencing, it was a statement to the community and to the family that justice would be served. For the mother and her daughters, it was a moment of acknowledgement from the court that what they had endured was real, and it mattered. As more details came to light during the trial, the community learned that Arnold had a troubling history. It turned out he'd been involved in similar incidents before, dating back to his youth. This revelation sent another wave of shock through those who knew him. The thought that his past actions had been hidden or ignored left many in disbelief. Judge Sweeney didn't hold back in emphasizing the importance of accountability, especially for someone with a repeated pattern of harm. She made it clear that Arnold's history only strengthened the court's resolve to protect others from ever facing the same kind of pain. For those in the courtroom, this was a moment that underscored the gravity of what had happened and why the sentence needed to reflect the seriousness of his actions. The sentencing brought a measure of closure, but for the family, the journey to healing was only beginning. The mother was left grappling with feelings of guilt and heartbreak, questioning her choices and wondering if she could have prevented this. Every day was a reminder of the trust that had been broken and the innocence that had been taken from her daughters. Her daughters, too, faced a difficult road ahead. What once felt like the safety of home was now a painful memory. They had to navigate a world where trust felt fragile, where the comfort they'd once known was overshadowed by betrayal. Yet they held on to each other, trying to find a way forward despite the scars left behind. The community stepped in to support the family in their time of need. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers rallied around them, offering help in any way they could. Some provided meals, others gave resources for counseling, and many simply offered a listening ear. Their compassion became a source of strength, reminding the family that, despite the trauma, they weren't alone. This support wasn't just about easing immediate burdens, it was a symbol of solidarity. The community wanted the family to know that they stood with them, ready to help them rebuild. In the midst of their darkest moments, the mother and her daughters found comfort in knowing that people cared deeply and were there to help them move forward, one step at a time. As the dust began to settle, the family and the community were left to reflect on the lessons of this tragedy. For many, it was a stark reminder of how easily trust could be misplaced, even with people who seemed deserving of kindness. The story sparked conversations about how to better protect loved ones, especially children, and how to find a balance between compassion and caution. For parents, the questions were deeply personal. Could something like this happen in their own homes? Would they have made a similar choice to help a friend? These reflections lingered, pushing everyone to think more carefully about safety and to recognize the importance of being vigilant even when intentions are good. This painful experience had left a lasting impact, one that the community hoped would prevent similar tragedies in the future. In the end, this story serves as a powerful call for vigilance and the importance of community. People realize that protecting the vulnerable requires a shared commitment from everyone. While kindness and compassion are valuable, this experience reminded them that boundaries are essential, especially when it comes to family safety. As they moved forward, the community vowed to be more aware, to listen closely when something feels wrong, and to look out for each other in a way that goes beyond words. For the family, it marked the start of a new chapter, one focused on healing and resilience. With the support of those around them, they hoped to rebuild their sense of safety and find peace after such a difficult journey. Reflecting on what happened, many were left questioning how easily trust can be misplaced, even with people who seem close. The mother had believed wholeheartedly in the goodness of her friend, certain her kindness would make a difference. But this tragedy showed that even well-meaning choices can have consequences that are difficult to foresee. It's a reminder that trust, while essential, must be tempered with caution. The community's reflection on this event brought forward a shared understanding. Protecting loved ones means setting boundaries, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. This painful lesson underscored that sometimes taking a step back and evaluating a situation closely is the most responsible choice a person can make. This story has left a lasting impact, reminding everyone of the critical role vigilance plays in safeguarding our families and communities. It's not just about kindness or trust, it's about ensuring that compassion doesn't cloud our judgment. This tragedy has shown that even the most genuine intentions can lead to unexpected harm if caution is set aside. As we move forward, let's keep this lesson close. Being alert, asking questions, and setting boundaries are not signs of mistrust, they are acts of care. By staying vigilant and supporting each other, we can create safer spaces for those we love and protect against the dangers that sometimes hide behind familiar faces. Thank you for joining us in reflecting on this story. And remember, safety begins with awareness.